Alright, welcome back. So the next thing we're going to do in this model, if we take a look back at our drawing, is build this lid. This lid will sit on top of our device. It will open and close. It's going to hinge this way from a hinge at the back. So that's going to be the next thing that we add on here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to model sort of the lid itself and then the tabs, I think, onto this side panel. And we'll work from there. Alright, so let's start with the lid. We're going to model the lid remarkably similar to how we modeled the body of the whole thing. So we're actually going to start on plane 1. Do a sketch. Flip it around. So our lid, we're going to start the front. Sort of like this. But we're going to do something slightly different on this back edge of the lid. So let's line that up first. There we go. We're going to make this collinear with the front. So the angle when it's closed is the same. We're going to give some dimension going on. Let's do 1 inch. But we're going to need this whole piece to rotate up. And it can't do that if it's just square on the back. The corner will impact. And so what we're going to do in order to sort of resolve this issue is just throw a radius on it. So something like that. And we could, let's see. So this radius could just be a single kind of quarter shape. But the problem is what really is important here is where this center is. This is going to be our center of rotation. So what we're actually going to do, slightly differently, is we're just going to make a circle. And we're going to make that circle be 1 inch in diameter. And we're just going to place it down here. This line is going to be attached to our circle and vertical with the center and horizontal. There we go. So then we'll need another line going from basically that point to that point. Vertical. Now we can trim away the rest. So we basically have this radius, and that will be our point of rotation. So that when this rotates, it'll swing around there, and it'll actually stop in the vertical position. Cool, so there's our side panel for this. Now we can extrude that. We'll just do 1 material thickness. Again, equals that. Don't merge anything. There we go. So we've got that side panel. All right. This is where things are going to start getting slightly complicated. So we actually need to build this hinge structure into this. And the way we're going to do it is it's actually going to be attached to this second panel of our side. So not the outer one, the second one. So we're going to come into this. We're going to hide our outer one. Hide. We're going to sketch on this surface. We could also sketch on that surface. It will work the same. So we're going to sketch here. We're going to make sort of a tab coming off of this, and it will actually work out pretty nicely. Our tab is going to come up. We're actually going to make it, let's make it circular, just for fun. It'll look a little nicer. There we go. And so we can actually make it, just to be safe, we do quartile here. So it'll be sort of the same size, give or take, as our, or this will give us a reference. We're going to do it this way. This will give us a reference as to where that center is. We're going to make a hole. We're going to make a hole in it. That will be for either a piece of cardboard or a dowel. I think in this case we're actually going to use the cardboard that ends up getting laser cut out, and so we don't have to worry about its size too much. We'll make it 0.5. Yeah, that looks good. And so we could go right up to the top of this, so have that sort of full shape. The problem with doing that in this case is that then our top of our lid has to be slightly taller. And so in this case, we're actually just going to go up, not the whole height. We'll actually truncate ourselves. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I'll draw our truncation there. Let's see, maybe something like this. There to there and there. There and there. Try that one more time. That point to that point along that line. There we go. And so we just sort of need to define this. And we're going to make sure that this is slightly below that layer. So we're going to say this is equal to mat minus point, I don't know, let's go with 0.03. So that will give us a bit of clearance. There we go, got our shape. We're going to close this off. Just like that. Excellent. So now we'll say extrude this tab, reverse it, merge its result, but just with that piece. So now this piece has a tab attached to it for our hinge, which is great. We're going to then very quickly add that same tab over here. Oh, look at that. It would appear that we missed something or screwed up something involving our top. It looks like it didn't move the tab correctly. Let's go back and fix that. We can see what that error is, that we missed a line, it looks like. So that really, we should have a line running from here to there. Whoops. Definitely doesn't like something we just did, but we'll fix it. It's not a worry. So these two are equal. We're going to want to bring back that right side outer. No, that seems to be fine. Let's see what's wrong. Doesn't like that. This one and this one need to be equal. This and this. There we go. Would appear that we're almost fixed. Something is still that one. Aha. There we go. And that should be vertical. There we are. Problem solved. The advantage, we can just go back and fix things like that. Really, no issue at all. So now we'll hide this. We'll sketch on this surface. We're going to make sure we grab our tab, which is that sketch. We're just going to convert the entity and then extrude it. make sure we go the other way. There we go. And make sure it bonds to that. There we go. So now we've got our 2 tabs on there. No problem. We could model in the centers on these, but we're actually going to, what we're going to end up doing is when we laser cut, we'll end up just reusing the center. So I'm not going to model them in this case. We very well could if we wanted to, but I think we'll be just fine without it. All right, so we're going to continue working on sort of how this is going to get assembled. So the next one, this is actually going to be a 3 thickness piece. We'll bring back those adders for a moment. So we're going to have a inner layer, or kind of an interstitial piece, and then another inner layer that captures the other side of that, which will make sure it's a nice secure assembly. So let's do that inner layer. This one becomes really pretty simple to do. We just need to make sure it clears everything over here. So as long as it is, for the most part, that size, we'll know that it will clear, and we'll probably make it a little bit bigger. So we'll do an offset entity. We'll do 0.1 just to be safe. We'll make it, our base geometry is there. And then if we select this piece and say convert entities, and then do a whole whopping load of trims, should have what we need. This one has somehow disabled itself. Whoops. So these 2 lines just need to be coincident. There we go. So now we can extrude that. Same thing. Don't merge. So there's our middle layer. Whoops. We have a little bit of impingement there, so let's fix that. And we'll fix this so we don't have to worry about it at all. Yeah. Problem solved. So that will easily clear kind of all those bits. And then we just need the other one. And so the other one, the other side of it is just going to be identical to the outside, just like that. There we go. So now we sort of have this sandwich hinge. And so when we glue everything together, this will be trapped. The cutout will be trapped in there, and it'll rotate very nicely. So that's exactly what we want. We want another one identical to it on the other side. So we're just going to simply mirror. Our mirror face will be our right one. The bodies will be that one, and that one. Excellent. Perfect. Couldn't be better. So now we just need to put the front on it, the top on it. We won't worry about a back. In this case, the back doesn't really matter. We just really need that front. And so we'll do the front and the top. Let's do the front first. Same way as we did this front panel, basically. We're going to go across. We could get quite fancy here and do some sort of like stair step within these to help kind of lock them in place. But in this case, I'm not going to worry about it because then it'll make this panel and this panel interchangeable in how we assemble, and then we don't have to worry about like making sure the right one goes in the right place. These we'll want to make, let's say 0.2 maybe. Sounds good. Oops, I have subsequently angered someone. Let's see, equal, shouldn't be a problem. Most likely there's a, nope, that one should be fine. Somewhere we've made some relationship that it's really not happy about. Let's see. I would like all of these to be equal. Fine with that side. Wondering, it's put in a relationship somewhere. Those seem to be okay. Huh. See if we can find where that is. Maybe a collinearity that we're not realizing. Ooh, this is weird. Like I said, there's a chance we're gonna run into some problems. There we go. Let's see, so this side's claiming to be fully defined over here without really being dimensioned, which I am finding to be slightly strange. There it is. So this point was coincident with that point, which is why everything was being strange. So sometimes you accidentally make a relation and you have to track it down. All right, so now we can say those are equal, and that is the 0.2 that we want. There we go. Much, much, much better. Excellent. So we've got that panel. But let's go back in real quick. We're going to need some way to open this thing. So maybe a handle or a grip surface, or in this case, I think we're just going to do a quick cutout. So very similar to how we've been doing the feet. Whoops. Been saying 60 degrees, I think. Sorry. Magic number. There. Grab our dimension. Dimension. Three may be too big. Let's do 2. These two are equal. Then we'll select this, select its midpoint, grab that midpoint, make them vertical. There we go. Alright, so now we can extrude this back. We may have to make some adjustments to it. Whoops. We're going to do it by our material thickness. There we go. And so if we look at this from the side, we'll see that we're incurring ourselves into that top. So we're probably going to want to shorten this just a bit. There are a couple ways we can do that. We could do it from the front, which we've done before. But let's do this one from the side, just for practice. And the way we're going to do this is we are going to we're going to sketch on the side. So I need to get out of my... We're going to hide all three of these layers. We're going to come in and we're going to sketch on this surface. And we're going to make simply just a cut perpendicular and coincident with that, and make sure that it is perpendicular to there. So we just have this line. And so what we can actually do is we can actually use just that line if we want to. Huh, that cut seems intriguing. There. Huh. Maybe those actually do match up like perfectly. Let's see. Yeah. It would seem so. This is kind of an interesting occurrence. So these actually sync up, but only where that piece is. So in theory, we could like just take the notch out of there and have them sit perfectly on top of each other, which I'm kind of tempted to do. Might actually look kind of elegant that way. But we'll do this side view one real quick. So we can actually just cut with a line, which is kind of interesting. So if we have a line like this, we can cut. We can make sure that we're flipping, so we're cutting that side off. If we say through all and just select this piece, you'll notice that we've sliced just through, just like that. But actually, after noticing that little foot gap deal, I kind of want to take advantage of that. So we're going to delete that feature, that cut. And we're going to do this slightly differently. So going back in, editing our sketch, we are going to finish this off as a square. There. Yes. Yep. And so now we're going to do the extrude cut again. But instead of being from that plane, we actually want it to start here. And so we can do that by selecting from surface plane. And so we want to say actually from this surface. And we just want to go all the way up to that one. So we can say up to surface and that surface. And make sure that we select just the body we want to cut. Whoop. So now we actually have this where we'll make sure that we clear this top face, but we'll actually kind of nest into those, which I kind of like. Cool. So we can bring back these three pieces. There we go. So there's our front. And so now we need to do the top of this. And so in order to do the top, we're just going to sketch on this top surface. Doesn't really matter which one. And we know that it's going to be square, so at least it's going to fill this void. And what we may do is have it not actually go into this, and we're just going to sort of miss that, and we'll leave that front flat. But we do want it to engage the top. And we may actually even want it to cover that space. And so we're just going to extend some line. Whoops, that was a square. We're just going to add some lines off here. And we're going to do these as, I think, two kind of extensions. Same thing on the other side. There we go. All right, so we have those on there. And the next thing we're going to do is dimension those out. So we need to decide sort of where they're going to fall. So maybe we'll put that one 0.25 off the back. So just a little bit there. We're going to make this, let's make that like 4, 3. .5, 2.5. There we go. Make those equal. Same goes for these guys. Some distance here. 1. Do some trims. Yeah, it's okay. Okie doke. Now we just need to make that and that equal, as well as this and this. Great. Oh, those all need to be equal to each other. Excellent. I misclicked something. That's a fix, which should not be there. All right. So we now have this top sort of defined. That one doesn't matter, or does the point. All right. So now we can do extrude with this, other direction, our material thickness, and we're good there. So in order to do the cutouts for these, there are actually a couple ways we could do this. One of the easiest ways, though, or an easy way for doing, say, like this one, is we can just select this sketch again and say extrude cut and is equal to material thickness. And it's going down, which is what we want. And then we can select the things we want it to cut through. So that one, and that one. This one, this one, this one. So now we've cut out, and it fits in nicely. Can do the same thing for this, even if we want to. Or we can come down here on the side, select sketch, convert that entity, and do an extrude cut through all of that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. There we go. So now we've got our lid that will fit nicely on. We are going to want to check some of these, though. The main thing to check is that one, the tab. Sorry. Let's see. So we really want to make sure that we're not impacting the tab with our lid, which it looks like we almost might be. Oh, I know why, because our equation is wrong. We did a minus there instead of a plus. So we can actually edit, we could either go back into the sketch or we can actually manage equations. Come down here, here's this equation, and we actually need to say this needs to be not a minus, but a plus. So now it evaluates to 1.18, and when we click OK, it'll rebuild itself. And now we can actually see, yes, we do have the clearance that we need there. Excellent. So we've got a lid on this thing. That lid will hinge up which will actually make it move in our assembly. We can check some things. Great. So now I think the next thing we'll do is add in buttons and such on this surface. Then we'll do maybe the cell phone and the interior in another video. But let's do the buttons in this one. So if we go back to our sketch, save, definitely save. If we go back to our sketch, we're going to do a knob, a spinning knob, and some buttons. In order to do this, we're going to need a couple more layers here for this thing to sort of work out. But let's start on the surface, and this way we can at least get our locations set. So our knob is going to go here. Our buttons, we're going to do one big button and two smaller buttons. No idea what these are for, just other than the fact that they're just examples. Our knob, let's make this sort of a big knob at 2.5 inches, nice big rotating knob. These buttons will be 1 inch square. This thing will be 3.5, but with a 1 inch as well. Make those equal. Go. Make sure everybody lines up nicely. Maybe we'll throw in a third button, actually. Let's toss a third one in. There we go. All right. Some distance between them. If we want these spaced equally, an easy way to do that is to just throw in a couple lines. Make them equal, but also for construction. So now we have this sort of unit, I guess. And let's make it... I'm going to throw in another construction line. One off the top here. Another off the bottom here. Whoops. That one should have been vertical, but for construction. Don't know. There we go. And then we're going to throw in two infinite horizontal lines off the circle. Make these coincident. So we're sort of like defining some proportions here. Relationships. Whoops. It needs to be horizontal. There we go. And that little line needs to be vertical. There. Now everyone's happy. And then we're going to need to just generally position these things. We're going to use a circle, I think. Maybe even too big. We'll try it, though, to help position our dial. So if we say this circle is tangent to that edge, and tangent to this edge, and tangent to this edge. There we go. That sort of positions everything quite nicely. And then this side, we just add in a little more construction geometry. When you're doing your assignment for this, I hope that you sort of consider your locations before modeling as to where your buttons may be. I'm really just sort of winging it here. these two equal. There we are. Whoops. That needs to be equal as well. There. Great. So now we've got where our knobs are going to go and where our buttons are going to go. And so to do this, the first step is to just cut them out. Through all, but just that one. There we go. So we have these initial cutout locations for our buttons. Now this is going to be a 3-layer system. So 3-layer, 4-layer. Let's say 3-layer, I think. Yes, 3-layer. So the next layer we're going to do is we're going to go down. It's going to actually be on the back of this one. So I'm going to hide the bottom, and sketch here. Now this layer is almost identical. So we're going to convert the entities. We're also going to convert the buttons. And an easy way to do that is we can select a loop and convert. Same thing. So we just select the edge, flip which loop basically we're after. There we go. So there are our buttons. And then our knob, though, has to be done slightly differently on this layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a larger circle that is some level of offset, maybe 0.25. So what's going to happen is when we laser cut this out, we'll end up with this larger circle. The bottom layer that we're going to do shortly is going to be completely solid. And so when we assemble this, we'll end up trapping that larger circle within this space and then sticking our knob to this surface. And so as a result, the whole thing will sort of be able to rotate. It'll be a trapped rotating part. So let's extrude that, which needs to go down. But as we can sort of get a sense here, we're not going to have any problems on the top, but we are definitely going to have problems on the bottom. How this piece impacts this front face. So let's make the adjustment for that. So we're going to edit the sketch. We're going to come back in here. And so we can sort of make an adjustment just by moving this up. And it doesn't really matter how much we do it as long as it's just enough. Because the fingers will help us with our indexing. And as long as we realistically just clear the other panel, everything will be just fine. So we can throw a dimension maybe off that. That looks great. Cool. So now let's extrude that piece. So there's, whoops. There's our middle layer. We're going to make sure we do matte. Don't merge result. There we go. So there's our second layer. We are going to have to fix these cutouts on the sidewalls, but really not a problem. And so now we just need to do the third layer, and the third layer is really straightforward. We just convert entities and do that. So now we've got 3 layers. This backing layer, so it'll help keep that button in. And then what we'll use it for, or keep the knob in, and then what we'll use it with the buttons is where we'll put some material in here that's maybe slightly squishy. So say like a piece of foam or sponge, and then we'll just attach these cutouts to it. We'll probably do some graphics on these, maybe in Illustrator, that get etched in. But this way we'll have like a slightly squishy button that we'll be able to like feel move. So let's fix these side panels. Shouldn't take but a moment. So we do a sketch on the side panel. We get both these two new layers that we've added in. Simple as that. Maybe trim between them. There we go. Bring that panel back. Throw our bottom back in too while we're at it. Do an extrude cut. Simply through all, making sure we just select the side panels. There we go. So now we've got our buttons and knob set up here. We've got our top. To help us just sort of organize some things, we probably want to come back in and name stuff, which I will do at some point in here. But for now, I'm just going to select, I think that's all of them. Yep. I believe I can put these in a folder, which will help if I can get them all, or at least some of them. We're going to add that to a new folder. And this is going to be called lid. Putting things in folders just helps us sort of keep track of what's going on. It also lets us sort of group things, because now we can hide the bodies in a folder. Whoops, missed one. Or show bodies. It's just a little easier way of handling, like if we want to deal with kind of a macro maneuver. All right, so I think the next thing we're going to do is do the cutout and everything for the screen, the iPhone in there, and save. And then we'll do the bucket where like the rice would be made. So in order to do the screen, the first thing we want to decide is where the screen is going to go on this surface. So we're going to sketch. And we're going to draw, just sort of for reference at this point, just our screen size, which is 4.125 by 2.3. So our screen size is 4.125 by 3. Nope, 2.3, right? That's what it was. So that's our screen size. Maybe on our design we want our screen to be slightly smaller than this, just so we don't have to worry like so much about getting the phone in the exact right place. We can have a little area of adjustment. So we're going to make a slightly smaller display. We're going to match their centers. And maybe we'll make them like some happy numbers, like 4 by 2. So just really easy numbers to work with. We could really pick a whole variety of things. And we're going to have to decide where we want the screen to go. Maybe we'll actually have it sit slightly off to the side here, rather than dead center. What we also need to be concerned with, though, is the device size itself. So we're going to throw an additional rectangle on here. That is for construction. And this one is going to be 5.5 by 2.76. So 5.5 by 2.76. So that's the actual phone size. So we want to make sure that we have like enough clearance off the edges and things like that. So maybe we'll actually use that as our reference here. Give it 1 inch. Or let's see what we can do to make this thing like at least look somewhat decent. Can we get it? Nope, we don't want it sticking out the side. We could have it load from the side if we wanted to, but I think we're actually going to load it in the top. Let's see, maybe the center of the screen will line up with that edge. That sounds good. There we go. And we'll center it on this panel though. Well, we have one too many things selected there. Okay. Wow, it seems to be selecting multiple things. Let's try that. There we go. There. So that's where our screen location is going to be. And I'm going to fill it. Whoops. Definitely not 1 inch. We're just going to fill it the edges of that display. We could do this as a feature as well. I'm going to do it as part of the sketch in this case. There we go. So now we can do an extrude cut and cut that out of that particular panel. There we go. Great. So now we've got our cutout for our phone, but now we need to actually do the rest of the geometry. So how are we going to get our phone into this? How are we going to support it inside? So let's do that next. We're going to do actually a lot of this sort of from the side. Will help us kind of figure out where the phone's going to sit and how it's going to kind of get into this device. So let's start with a let's see, how do we want to do this? I think we're actually going to start with a piece of reference geometry. We're going to throw a plane in. That's dead center of our screen space. Whoops, we have one too many planes. There we go. So, right there. That looks good. We're going to sketch on that. We're also going to do a, whoops, let's see if we can flip it or not. There we go. Section view. So that gives us a good sense of sort of where some of these aspects are. So we're probably going to want one panel. So we may just use this sketch for mapping and then sort of come back in and actually draw in each component. So we're probably going to want a panel below. I'm going to draw these with our square tool, rectangle tool. So we're probably going to want one below like that to support it. And then we're going to want to make sure that we have one behind as well. To sort of support that. And then we're going to need some sort of hole in the top. So what gets interesting with this is that we don't need this panel to actually go through the top at all. It could actually be quite short. It could maybe even be smaller, shorter than the phone itself. So this is sort of going to be a tray. It's going to tack into the side walls. Is what's really going to help hold this together. We could have these two be equal. We may have this overshoot slightly just to give it a bit more additional support so that that actually fits in. And so we'll sort of use this as just kind of a planning arrangement for the moment. But we can dimension this a bit as well. So let's quickly throw things that we know on here in terms of dimensions. Whoops. There we go, that one. So this is going to equal our material thickness. Again, making sure we click that checkbox so we get this view, the little globe, before we click OK. We can make these the same. There we go. Excellent. Let's take a look at our phone thickness. Our phone thickness is 0.36. And so we probably want this from that face to be a little bigger than that, maybe 0.37. We'll try that. May need to be larger. I haven't tested this. It's definitely something you'd want to check. We're going to make this go almost all the way to the top, but not quite. So maybe just off the surface here, like 0.1. This will help us, though, figure out where our hole needs to be cut to get it in. Maybe we will slide this in from the side. I'm actually not liking the idea of going in from the top now because this section will be so very thin and we may lose it. So we're going to go into the side of our device, which will work just fine, no problem. Does mean we just need to make some additional adjustments. All right. And let's define a depth of this. We're actually going to make it related to not an angle, but there. And we'll make that 0.25. So just a little bit wider there. Excellent. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And one of the critical bits of this is where this sort of foot portion is, where the phone's going to be sitting. And the way we can do that is looking back at our sketch. There we go. We know that the extent of the bottom of the phone is there. And so we can make sure that this line, that point and that line are coincident. There we go. So now when we set the phone on here, it will sit nice and proper. Cool. That's looking pretty good, at least for our mapping out kind of plan for this. Excellent. So we'll exit that sketch for a moment. We're then going to come in and start making these parts. Let's do this one first. So we're going to say sketch on this plane. Easily we can just convert these parts. We're then going to extrude that. We need to actually exit our section cut view. So we're going to extrude this, and we're going to extrude it. We could either extrude it all the way to the wall and then cut away to make our kind of fit our finger, or we can extrude it and then extrude an additional bit to make the finger, which is, I think, what we're going to do. So in this case, we're going to go up to surface in one direction, to that wall on the inside. Make sure we don't merge the result. We'll do direction 2 up to surface, just the same. So there, just like that. So there's that one. Now we're going to hide those. So now we can sketch on this surface. We probably want a little bit of distance between here and here. Let's see what 0.1, maybe we'll do 0.2 even. Or 0.1 or 0.1's kind of small. Let's do 0.2. Whoops. All right, we'll leave it at 0.1. Oh, seems like I may have brick Solidworks. Something about rapidly clicking on dimensions sometimes can cause problems. We're going to see if we can get out of this. Otherwise, probably edit this out of the video. Oh, there we go. Okay. We survived! It is possible to lock SolidWorks up, particularly when directly clicking dimensions. I've had problems with this before. So just be careful, I guess. Still not happy with that. Alright. It's also a good reminder to save often. There we go. So let's exit that and let's save. Yeah, excellent. Okay. Now we can extrude this feature. We're going to extrude it up to there. That's the exterior of our model. And we do want to merge this one, but we want to only merge it with that. There we go. And we're going to do basically the same thing on the other side. And an easy way is we can actually reuse that sketch. So if we do select the sketch and we say extrude again with it, but in this case we're going to want to be on that surface going the other way, and we're going to go up to, see if it'll let me grab that edge. Yeah, up to vertex. There we go. Up to that edge, merging result, but just merging with that. There we go. So that one will now support the bottom of the phone. Excellent. Now we're going to do something extremely similar. So where's that sort of guide sketch we had? Oh, I may have accidentally used the guide sketch. Hey, that's kind of all right. So I created a sketch and ended up clicking on a different one. It's okay. We're just going to delete that sketch. We actually don't need it for anything. Whoops. Maybe we do. Let's see. Oh. So that feature's fine. How interesting. But this one is not. Let's see. It's okay. We'll fix it. There we go. All fixed. All good. All happy. That one should probably be just fine too. Excellent. All right. So using that guide sketch we made, let's extrude the other component of this. That's going to be our back. So we're going to just select that volume, that contour. Should just be that one, I think. Let's clear everything and just make sure we grab the right thing. There we go, that region. We're going to go up to vertex on this one. That way. Basically, very much doing the same thing. And very much in the same way and same sizes and all of that. There we go. Just like that. Really quite straightforward. Now we're just going to sketch on this side. Again, just making tabs. defining some dimensioning. We can reference that, which is quite nice. Making sure we only merge with itself. There we go. There's one. Let's do the other one. Selecting that same sketch, but off of this surface this time. Making sure we merge with the correct item. Cool. So now we've got sort of this deal going on, which is looking pretty good. We also want one off the bottom of this into this. And so we're going to do this kind of what I would call a clever manner. So going to plane 4 again in a sketch. We're going to draw this box. Whoops, that didn't seem right to me for a moment. We're going to draw this box. So this box is going to be, we want to make sure that we are coincident with that line and perpendicular to that, collinear. There we go. So that box is going to be both our extrude and our cut, which is kind of cool. So we're going to extrude it, and we're going to give it a offset from a surface, this surface, by 0.75. And we're going to do the same thing in direction 2. Offset from a surface there by 0.5 or 0.75, sorry. So we've got that. And so this is the extrude portion of this. So we are merging the result. We're only merging with this, which is great. And now we're going to do the exact same thing, but as an extrude cut. So we're going to do, again, offset from surface, off this surface. We're going to do an offset from this surface, from that surface. Same thing, except the difference is now we're going to select this part. And so when we do that, now we've got the hole for that in there. So that makes that assembly quite nice. And so now, whoops. So now finally we just need to do the cuts on the outside panels. And these will be slightly different. So let's do our left side ones first. We could put in a stopper piece in here. So like something over on this side, so when we slide the phone in, it doesn't go all the way or doesn't pass by. But I'm not really worried about that in this case. Even if it does go all the way over, we should be able to still touch the screen through and sort of slide it back. So we can just sort of manually position it. I'm okay with that on this one. We could throw that stopper in if we wanted to, but for just not feeling it. All right, so we're going to put in the holes for those two pieces on this side. So again, sketching on the face. Easily just grab that and that. Convert entities. Bring out our left side and our right side. Do a extrude cut for both of these through all. Make sure we clearly define our scope, being those two, whoops, those two, and those two. Missed one. There we go. There we go. So we now have the cuts for that. But on this side, we actually need a full cutout. So going to sketch on this side. And what we need to make sure that we have is a cutout that is at least let's see if we can get all our angles right. Whoa! So we need to be parallel to that. We're attached to that one and attached to this one. There we go. And maybe just a bit taller than the phone itself. I think I need to be normal too, will help with that. No, I need this to, I think we'll do it as point. There we go. Point to point. Oop, there. Normal. Nope. Everything's getting weird. Let's see, can I get the angle that I actually want? Give me a moment. Let's try that again. So we want the distance between this point and that point. We would like to view this thing from the right. Wow. I was hoping to just get that distance, like from there to there. But fine. I could draw in some lines to get it, but this will be fine. As long as it's just a bit taller is the goal. And so that makes it, you know, just verifies that we will be able to get the phone in, no problem. And now we can extrude cut. Through all, but just these two. Nope, these two. Nope, these two. There it is. There we go. So now we've got a hole that runs through. This will let us slide the phone in and take it out during our testing. And save. So the last thing we're going to do in this video is sort of just cut the bucket. How we're going to do the bucket for the where the rice goes. And that will be the last bit that we do in this video. And then the next bit, we'll add the two side containers. And then we'll build assemblies and all sorts of other things. So let's do this. So this is just going to be rectangular of some size. Maybe we do want it to be square. Whoops, let's try 7 inches. Make it square. And this is where we're going to want to like look at some of our other things that we've done so far. So looking at our lid, just making sure that we aren't too close to those, and very critically making sure that we're not going to clip the phone. So just getting our positioning right. We might be able to boost that to 8 inches. But 8 may be too big. We may do like a 7. 8 seems okay. Let's do 7.5. That seems better. We're going to line it up with our origin here. And it seems like even if we're a little bit forward, we're okay. So let's sort of just center it on this top surface. So I'm going to hide the lid again. We're going to just draw a construction line that goes from here to here. And we're going to match those center points. There we go. Excellent. So we've got this shape. We're going to do just an extrude cut. Through all but just the top. There we go. So now we've got a nice hole. And And what we're going to do is just basically build a bucket that sort of fits into this hole that can come out. We could get kind of fancy if we wanted to and build a bucket that sort of is the interior and then the bucket that actually fits in, so you don't see inside the whole device. In this case, it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to build sort of the very simple bucket. And the way we're going to do that, the first thing we're going to do is build a frame. So that frame is going to be slightly larger. Half-inch in this case. There we go. And then, so you can think of it this way, that our walls, I'm going to actually draw this in. Our walls are going to be a single layer of cardboard, or whatever our material is. We're sort of working material agnostic currently. So we've got this single layer, and so it is going to be a material thickness I think it wants a number. Let's see. Everything's construction geometry. So this thing is going to be equal our material thickness. There we go. So that's our inside structure. So the walls will be that thick. So therefore, we actually want this offset line to be our inside of our frame. So there we go. Equals our geometry there. There we go. And so now we just need the side walls for this and the tabbing to sort of keep it in place, and a bottom, which is not too difficult. So we can actually, we're going to make our lives a little easier. We're going to go back into the sketch, and we're actually going to define those fit tabs, our fingers here. So we'll just define them within this space. And so working with this as square lets us do a couple things. We're actually going to end up using a circular pattern on this in kind of a clever way. So we really want a lot of this stuff to be like completely equal. So all of these need to be equal. Nope, not for construction, my bad. All right, so we've got all those as equal, which comes out quite nicely. There may be a relationship there, because that should be, it should be wanting some sort of, I feel like it should be wanting some sort of dimension, but I'm not necessarily going to complain. put in some dimension, but tracking it down may be a little difficult. But I can try. Right now I've brought up all the dimensions. I'm scrolling through them. I know it's probably a coincidence somewhere. I'm just looking for something that maybe jumps out. And this kind of comes from experience. Show you something that's related to something outside of the sketch. You can sometimes do this by looking at, haha, I think I found it. By looking at where things are. So if we look at, we've got entities and it's defined in the current sketch. And as I'm scrolling through these current sketch, when we get to start getting to this idea of same model, that means it's defined in the same model but outside of the current sketch. So I think that one actually is the one. Whoops. That particular relationship is the one that may actually do it. Haha. Found it. So now these are equal but floating. So now we can actually throw the dimension that we want on there, which is 1 inch. Excellent. Okay. So now we can exit this. So now we've got this shape. So we have that which is against our wall. And that which is just a little over, which is fine. So let's draw in the first of these side panels. We're actually going to do a section view, which will help. So we've got this geometry. So we know that it's going to be across the top. Whoops. My section cut is a little far there. I want there. Perfect. That. All right. So the first line is going to go across here. Pretty straightforward. Oops. The next one, delete that, make ourselves normal. So the next one's going to go down here, also pretty normal. The next one's going to go over all the way to the edge. And it's going to end up with a inset gap here. However deep we decide to make this. And then on the other one, we're going to go outside. So what this will let us do, we're going to make everything, make sure we're collinear with these. These need to be equal to our material thickness. There we go. And these two need to be equal to each other. And then finally we need to actually pick a height for our bucket, which I think 5 inches will be just fine. Okay, those two need to be collinear. Whoops. And that should, I believe, needs to just go right to the corner. Maybe slightly wrong with this and have to come back in and adjust it. But we'll see in a moment. So we've got this panel there. It's going to get extruded out a material thickness. Don't merge the result. There we go. So we've got this panel like that. And now we're going to do a circular pattern. Oh, we may need a something to circular pattern our circular pattern around. Which in this case I want, just need to find the right sketch for it. That sketch. So we actually want to go around that point. So I'm going to create an axis for this. So that point and probably a face, which we can use this face. There we go. There's an axis. It's a reference geometry. We're going to do a circular pattern, selecting that part, that direction, and we want equal spacing and 4 of them. And ideally, if I've done this right, which I think I haven't, they'll puzzle piece together. I think I'm going to need to adjust some aspects of this. I think I have to slide that one a material unit over. I believe will solve the problem. There we go. All right, so let's go back in and make an adjustment here. So I believe the change that needs to occur is where that this whole shape needs to be a material thickness off from that edge. If I can see that edge from that edge there. Whoops. That one. Thank you. There we go. Now let's take a look at that, and we're going to do that through a section cut. Oops, I think I may have made it worse. I feel like I made it worse. There's something very strange is going on. See if we can figure this out. Actually, I think that was mostly in the right spot, maybe. And it's this one that needs to come back. Let's try that. A little bit of trial and error, but it's kind of inexpensive at this point in time, right? We haven't cut parts yet. We haven't spent any money on materials or machining. So I think what we need to do is this side needs to come in. Let's try that. Some of you are probably watching this video going, no, it's this way. It's like the bad horror movie. Don't go in there. There we go. Let's take a look at that now. Ah, that's looking much better. It really does seem, though, that it is not keeping those as separate bodies, doesn't it? There may be a checkbox we're missing. Yeah, I think we're merging there. Looks like it. Yeah. Ugh. That is not right at all. Ah, it's because we're doing a feature. That was the problem. Whereas what we want to do is just a body. Whoops. We're going to have to delete that circular pattern. There we go. Let's try that again. circular patterns. Make sure that we're not doing features, but we're doing bodies. Our direction being that. Our body being that. Ah. Success. There we go. So now if we look at those corners, we see that we have this nice puzzle piecing effect. It makes it really easy to assemble. There we go. Just took a moment. Now we actually want to add a bottom to this, which is also relatively easy. We just need to get at its bottom. So there we go. So what we're actually going to do is come back here and edit our side panel sketch. And so we're going to add in the cutout for the bottom as well. Now, one thing to note when we do this is that we sort of want to ignore the sides, and we want to make sure it's actually indexed more like the top. Otherwise, they're going to be like an offset to them. So we're just going to make those the exact same as the top. There we go. And we can even make, because the material thickness is defined there, we'll use that. There we go. So now we've got those on the bottom. So now all we have to do is select that face. And just trace some lines. And because we're on the upper face of the piece, the material thickness is built in, so we can either extrude to the material thickness or we can just extrude up to a surface, which is what I think we'll end up doing here. There we go. So we can just say features extrude. We're just going to do up to a surface, which is going to be the bottom of one of these. Make sure we do not merge. And click that. Cool. So now we've got this bucket. We're going to save. So now we've got the bucket. All of its parts. So this will slide. We'll actually be able to lift this in and out. Let's see. We've got our lid, which is going to hinge. We've got our space for our cell phone that we can slide in from the side. We've got our buttons, and we've got our knob, which is going to use that trapped piece that we get when we laser cut it. Great. So we're doing pretty good. So the next step will be to add those two tanks to the side, and then do the rest of the assembly and getting it ready for print. So I think this is where I'm going to stop this video, and so we'll pick it back up again in the next one.